So this video is the last one in the series of polynomial videos about dividing polynomials. So there's two different methods you can use when dividing polynomials, and we'll start with the first one, which is long division. So if I have this first trinomial here, x squared plus 5x plus 6 divided by the binomial x plus 2, what I want to do is write it out in long division form. So I'm writing the x plus 2, the divisor over here, and the dividend under the long division symbol. And then I'm going to long divide. So what I'm looking at is the x and the x squared. So how many times can I put x into x squared, or what is x squared divided by x, or what times x will give me x squared, however you want to think about it. So I like to think actually what times x will give me x squared. Well, I know that's an x. So then I have x, now I multiply just like how you would do normal long division with numbers. So I have x times x will be x squared. And then x times 2 will be 2x plus 2x. Okay, and then you subtract, so I have x squared minus x squared is 0, that's what I want to happen. And then I have 5x minus 2x, which will be 3x. And then I bring down my other term there, so plus 6. And now I do the steps again. So now I'm looking at what times x would give me 3x. So if I multiply x by 3, that's going to give me what I want. So now when I do this multiplication step, I have 3 times x is going to be 3x. And then I have 3 times 2, which will be 6. Okay, and again I subtract, so I have 3x minus 3x is 0, and I have 6 minus 6, which will also be 0. So I have no remainder. So what that means then is that this polynomial x squared plus 5x plus 6 divided by x plus 2 is going to be equal to x plus 3. Okay, so x plus 3 is a factor. We'll get into that in other videos of this polynomial here. So let's see another way that we can do long division with what is called synthetic division. So synthetic division, we'll do the same problem again. It is a little bit quicker than the long division. So what I do is draw kind of an upside down division symbol, and then I need to take the root from the divisor. So the root is whatever makes that equal to 0. So I know that's -2, so that goes over on this side here. And then I'm going to list my constants from my other polynomial inside this symbol that I made. So the constant of x squared is just 1, or sorry, the coefficients is what I'm listing. So listing the coefficients of this polynomial, I have 1, 5, and 6. Okay, and my first step is just to bring down whatever this first number is here, so that's a 1. And now I multiply, -2 times 1 will give me a -2. And then instead of subtracting here, I add. So 5 plus -2 will give me 3. And then again, I multiply -2 times 3 is -6. And then again, I add, which is 0. So now what happens is that this is now the coefficient of x. It's going to decrease by 1 power. So instead of being x squared, which it started with, now the answer it's x. And then this one is going to be my constant, and this would be my remainder if I had 1. Okay, so that means the answer to this problem then is going to be 1x plus 3, or just x plus 3, which is what we saw on the previous slide. So a little bit faster to do the synthetic division, I think, but you can do this whichever way you feel comfortable. So let's see another example. Okay, again, I have a trinomial divided by a binomial. The only thing that's a little bit trickier in this one is you have to make sure that you include all powers in descending order. So I only have x to the 4 and x in this one, but when I write it out long division, in the long division way, I have to include x cubed and x squared as well. So I have x to the 4, but I have 0x cubed plus 0x squared plus 1x minus 3. Okay, so it's important to put in any missing powers. Okay, so then I just start the division process again. So I want to think what times x will give me x to the 4. Well, that would be x cubed. Okay, and then I multiply x cubed times x will be x to the 4. And x cubed times 1 will be x cubed. And then I subtract. So these will cancel out. And then I have 0, x cubed, subtract an x cubed, so that'll be a negative x cubed. And I'm going to bring down this 0 x squared. Okay. Now I divide again, so what times x will give me negative x cubed? Well, that would be negative x squared. And then I multiply, this is kind of messy. So negative x squared, and then I multiply negative x squared times x will give me negative x cubed. And then negative x squared times 1 will give me negative x squared. And then again I subtract, so these will cancel out. And then this will become 0 minus negative x squared, so it'll be a positive x squared. And then I have to bring down plus x, and then I continue on. So x, what times x will give me x squared? Well, that would just be an x, so plus x. So then I have x times x is x squared, and then x times 1 will be x. And I subtract, so I get 0 and 0, and then I bring down this minus 3. So now again I want to think what times x will give me 0. Well, that would just be 0, right? So then I'm done. There's nothing else to add on there. There's not going to be any other constant term. And this will be what's called my remainder. Okay, so I have a remainder of negative 3. And we'll look at maybe more in detail what that means in another video. But let's see the same example again and see if we can get the same answer with synthetic division. Okay, so if I write this out in the synthetic division form, first I have to think what is the root. So what plus 1 will give me a 0, so a negative 1 goes outside, and then I put all the coefficients from the other polynomial in this one. So I have 1, and remember I have 0, 0, 1, negative 3. So this was for x to the 4, this was for x cubed, this is for x squared, this is for x, and this is my constant. Okay, my first step is just to bring down this first number here, and then I multiply negative 1 times 1 will be negative 1, and I add, so 0 minus 1 will be minus 1. Then I multiply, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Then I add, so 0 plus 1 is 1. Then I multiply again, negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and I add, that'll be 0. And then negative 1 times 0 is 0, and then negative 3. So remember now in your answer, these all decrease. So now instead of this being x to the 4, this is the coefficient now of x to the 3 in your answer. X squared, x, constant, and remainder. So it shows that my answer then, my solution to this division would be x cubed minus x squared plus x, and then a remainder of 3, negative 3. I don't need that bracket there. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for watching. Good luck with the assignments.